Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Hey guys, so we have an arrest. On Tuesday, a U.S. official was arrested and criminally charged for leaking confidential financial documents relating to the former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort, the Russian embassy, and accused Russian spy Maria Butina. So 40-year-old Natalie May Edwards, a senior advisor in the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, was arrested Tuesday and had leaked documents to Jason Leopold, a reporter for BuzzFeed, according to a Wednesday announcement by Manhattan federal prosecutors. So that is our first move right there. Natalie May Edwards, a senior advisor in the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, was arrested on Tuesday, charged with unauthorized disclosure of suspicious activity reports, according to the Office of U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman. She was expected to make an initial appearance in Virginia federal court later in the day. Suspicious activity reports are submitted by banks to alert law enforcement to potentially illegal transactions. Prosecutors said that beginning in October 2017, Edwards disclosed suspicious activity reports connected to Manafort and his longtime associate Richard Gates, the Russian embassy, and accused Russian spy Maria Butina. The disclosures were reported in a series of articles in BuzzFeed related to special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation of a possible coordination between U.S. President Donald Trump's 2016 election campaign and Russia, according to prosecutors. So, from CNBC, she is charged with unlawfully disclosing so-called suspicious activity reports, or SARs, and conspiracy to do the same. Both felony counts carry a maximum potential sentence of 5 years in prison. The Quinton, Virginia resident Edwards is due to appear before a judge in U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia later Wednesday. A lawyer for Edwards did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The entire Mueller investigation is a complete fraud. It's built on lies which are then leaked to the media by the criminals in the deep state to keep the farce going, according to the author. And, we keep seeing these Man in High Castle ads all around this stuff. What are they telling us, guys? What are they telling us as we look at the photo of the deep state? Is it really the deep state? What does the deep state really look like? What names would you find on that list? As many would say, Rothschilds would be up there, as well as many other very old family names. So the world is so dependent on YouTube. And yes, I was panicking last night for videos that people frantically searched for alternatives during its 90-minute outage. And, for me, it just happened exactly when I was supposed to, a half hour before I was supposed to go and do a live feed. And so I did it, sending it out there, not knowing if there was anybody seeing it. But thankfully, people did see it. Not everybody was out. Many people were out, and it was really just a crazy night altogether, as you could tell when you watch the live feed that we have posted. So the inability to log on the web's second most visited site sent large numbers of people looking for alternative sources of video, and that might be a good thing. It's got a lot of people thinking. Google Trends provides a snapshot of how people began searching video sites like Dailymotion and Vimeo during YouTube's blackout. YouTube's massive sway on the world's attention may be best illustrated when video sharing site disappears. And so everybody started searching for the rivals. And for the rivals, YouTube's outage was like manna from heaven. As we could see, everybody started looking like, where can I go? Boy, that was Panic City in so many ways. There's all these rumors going around everywhere. And this is John X. Army. And I was watching him early this morning from last night. And, it was all about, was there something that hit the moon? And if they had to take that video down because we can't know something hit the moon. I mean, all these rumors going around. quarantine rumors and this and that. And is this it? And we were wondering, is this it? Is this, some people were saying, is this basically a test? Is it going to be, Red Dawn, Russia and China attacking? Is the whole internet going down? Or somebody probing our defenses? Wow, it was Panic City last night for so many people. And right when it went down, like literally 2-3 minutes later, this airplane went right overhead. And I live between a couple mountains, and it went so low, I swear it was brushing the treetops. And it sounded big, but it sounded propeller driven. I don't know what it was, but it was just a bizarre coincidence ultimately. But wow, that was something. And speaking of scary stuff, the IMF, did they just warn of another Great Depression ahead? A lot of people are taking it that way. Large challenges loom for the global economy to prevent a second Great Depression. Warns the IMF. Massive government debts and eroded fiscal buffers since 2008 suggest global dominoes await a single market crash. 2008 crisis measures cast long, dark, terrifying shadow. And so is another Great Depression just on the horizon? Or, are we going to get that financial reset that so many people are talking about? And this SARA, what's going on? Are we all switching to, some sort of digital currency? What is really going on here? And what are they trying to get across? Are they just trying to instill panic and fear? So, as this says, it would be easier to dismiss these words from Nouriel Roubini, Mark Faber, or other doom and gloom prognosticators. Coming from Christine Lagarde's team, though, they take on a whole new dimension of scary. The International Monetary Fund's head isn't known for breathlessness on a world stage, and yet the IMF sounded downright alarmist in its latest Global Financial Stability Report, stating that large challenges loom for the global economy to prevent a second Great Depression. Even some market bears were taken aback. Why, asks Michael Snyder of the Economic Collapse blog, would the IMF use this phrase in a report that they know the entire world's going to read? Perhaps because, unfortunately, the findings of other referees of global risks, including the Bank for International Settlements, hint at similar dislocations. 10 years after the Lehman Brothers crisis, these worrisome warnings that will be explored in depth at this week's annual IMF meeting in Bali. The tranquil setting, though, will offer few respites from the cracks appearing in markets everywhere from Italy to China to Southeast Asia, where currencies are cratering like it's 1998 again. And, realize, too, that in these periods when we go into these weather situations, these grand solar minimums, typically there are a lot of issues. Obviously, there's going to be food crises, shortages. You're going to have, countries doing things they shouldn't do and going and invading and taking over other countries. You're going to have wars. You're going to have, desperate people. And that's what we have when we're going to have these food shortages that are looming. And so that's something that could definitely break the straw, or is the straw that will break the camel's back. And there's definitely a lot of unusual signs, but there's also unusual things going on as we see like the BRICS nations get stronger. In some ways, a countermeasure against the powers that be. The First Lady's airplane experiences mechanical issues and has to return to Joint Base Andrews. And, they actually had reports of smoke in the cockpit. Wet towels were given to press corps and other passengers to cover their faces because of a strong burning smell. Nobody was injured, though, and the plane did land safely back. So the First Lady was safe and sound. So the Democrats are eyeing an Internet Bill of Rights if they win the House. Google, Facebook, and other online companies can expect greater scrutiny and probably legislation from a Democratic-led Congress, a Silicon Valley lawmaker close to the party leadership said. Representative Ro Khanna, whose California district is home to companies that include Apple and Intel, said in an interview that episodes like the leak of Facebook users' data to Cambridge Analytica and last year's breach of consumer information by Equifax had amounted to a wake-up call that rules are needed. And so we'll see. We need more and more people to, get out from under all this control that we see. It's been a ever growing worse big brother world ever since 9/11. It's only gotten more intense. And as we've talked about in many videos, it really does feel like it's a full court press against First Amendment rights. We just see it all the time. And, just to share with you guys, like right now, I'm on a Facebook timeout. They're slapping my wrist, and it won't be up until like 2:40 something p.m. Thursday that I can't really do anything with Facebook. And, they basically shut down my other account. That's why I was just celebrating some 1-year anniversaries of friendships that are actually like 5 and 10 years old, because they closed out my other account because they don't like sometimes what people post. And if you post things that are controversial, that's what you get. And so we'll see. We'll see if there's going to be a new Internet Bill of Rights. Now, this is another horrible situation that we've seen too many of in the world. 19 people are killed in Crimean school massacre after a student walks into a canteen and opens fire. And there's videos out that show the kids screaming and fleeing gunshots and bomb blasts. And so the one that did the shooting, he stalked his college halls with a shotgun and shooting at least 17 dead and then killing himself. He also set off a homemade nail bomb, which blew out windows, and he carried several more bombs as well. Another people later died in the hospital, as 7 are fighting for their lives right now after the mass murder. And just a horrible situation, and here you see him just, walking down the hall reloading his shotgun. It's just a crazy thing, and many feel that these kids are controlled in some ways or another, and some feel, that it could even be the product of, vaccines and other things. Most definitely, that a lot of the games that are focused on, first-person shooter games, Call of Duty and all those, they make it easier for people to do this. Not that anybody that plays those type of games is automatically going to, become a shooter like this, but just, it's just conditioning, and we've seen that. There's so much of this conditioning, and there's way too much of this in this world. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy how often we've seen it with these kids. And just another sad occurrence, my friends. 6 killed as U.S.-led coalition F-15 jets bomb Kurdish forces fighting ISIS. So this is out of Russia today. Of course, they're going to have the Russian slant. 2 U.S.-led coalition aircraft have bombed Syrian Kurdish forces, disrupting their offensive against Islamic State terrorists. RIA news agency reports. The diplomatic source has called out U.S. lack of coordination and professionalism. 2 U.S.-led F-15 fighter jets mistakenly targeted Kurdish units amid their offensive on remaining forces of Islamic State terrorists in Syria, citing a military and diplomatic source. 6 people killed, 15 injured on the Kurdish side. Way too many of those type of things as well, and this is just brutal too. We were talking about Kagoshi and everything and his apparent murder. So he was sawed into pieces while he was still alive, and that is just incredible. And according to sources, they know who did it. And will anybody in any way pay for it? What is going to be the outcome of this? And will this really affect relations between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia? Could it possibly push Saudi Arabia over to the Russian-Chinese side? Could it get them trading in petro yuan? Or will President Trump not risk, the relationship with Saudi Arabia, and will that cause a chasm with some other people, notably Senator Lindsey Graham and some of the other senators and congressmen? Will this be some sort of wedge that develops within the U.S. political system as well? And as we know about this, it's a sticky situation, and this really, it could be bigger than we all thought. And he was no saint. Jamal Khashoggi, he's got some interesting ties. Some actually call him a arms dealer. Some say that he was basically working for the Saudi government as an arms dealer. And so, he's been listed as a journalist and an author, and was engaged at the time of his disappearance and was going to get married. And, he was a Washington Post columnist. But it's interesting to see the ties of the family as well. So his family is also known as the Khashoggi family. And Khashoggi is not the only well-known member of his family. His grandfather was of Turkish origin, but married a Saudi woman, which is why there was a change in the last name. He was raised in Saudi Arabia with his family. He received elementary and secondary education in Saudi Arabia, then went on to attend college at Indiana State University, getting a bachelor's degree in business administration. And there are several high-profile individuals in his family, most notably his uncle, Adnan Khashoggi, who is a high-profile Saudi arms dealer worth billions. And, as we were talking about all the money that's been spent on the weaponry. So, as this says, Adnan Khashoggi was considered the most well-known individual in the Khashoggi family as a billionaire arms dealer based in Saudi Arabia. So, lots of blood on those hands. To make matters even more complex, Donald Trump reportedly purchased a $200 million yacht from Adnan Khashoggi back in '88. Adnan Khashoggi is best known for his role as a middleman in the 1980s Iran-Contra scandal. One biography of him is titled The Richest Man in the World, and he died in 2017 at 81 years old. It was once reported that he spent upwards of $250,000 a day to support his lifestyle. And so Khashoggi's grandfather was a royal physician to King Abdulaziz of Saudi Arabia. And so, there's ties there. We have Khashoggi's fiancée, Hadis Sengiz, was the last person who saw him outside the Saudi Arabian consulate. And beyond this, the one that really surprised me is that his cousin was Dodi Al-Fayed, who was dating Princess Diana when they were both killed in the car crash in Paris. So that's really curious as well. And it doesn't even stop there, because there's ties with Khashoggi. He had a very complicated past, including interviews with Osama bin Laden and close ties to the royal family. And some say, he was actually tied in with bin Laden in some ways as well. So, he perhaps was not Snow White by any means, and some paint him as basically an arms dealer. So, was this some sort of deal went wrong, or what was this? Was this skimming off the top? Was this making some sort of, who knows, but obviously people you don't mess with when they chop you up into pieces when you're still alive. So U.S. job openings hit a record 7.1 million, exceeding number of unemployed Americans. Americans are quitting their jobs at the fastest pace in 17 years. Wow, so that's pretty interesting. And as President Trump says, incredible number just out, 7,036,000 job openings, astonishing. It's all working. Stock market up big on tremendous potential of U.S. Also strong profits, number one in the world by far. And the jobs still waiting to be filled, meanwhile, easily exceeded the number of people officially classified as unemployed. Of course, we do know that there's permanently unemployed as well. And so it's interesting. It is interesting to watch all these dynamics. And yet we know that, it's all a house of cards in so many ways. When you look at the debt, which just keeps rolling up more and more and more. So best cities for jobs. Pittsburgh, number one, followed by St. Louis and Indianapolis. Well, hey, the Rust Belt is back, right? Is it? So with unemployment at a 50-year low and job openings at a record high, workers are enjoying more opportunities and leverage that they had in years. And so Pittsburgh came out number one as the best large metro area for jobs in 2018. Rounding out the top five are St. Louis, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, and Hartford, Connecticut, my home state there. And the rankings are based on the number of hiring opportunities related to population, the area's affordability, and job satisfaction. So there's a little bit more detail in there as well for you guys to check out. And then lifespans in 2040. So this is a little ways off. U.S. down, China up, Spain on top, and that's according to the trends. So life expectancy in 2040 is set to rise at least a little in all nations, but the rankings are going to be changing dramatically, with Spain taking the top spot while China and the U.S. trade places. So the projected lifespan of nearly 85.8 years average, Spain, formerly in fourth place, will dethrone Japan, which is currently on top of the rankings today with 83.7, and will drop to number 2. And in a shift that will be seen by some to reflect a superpower changing of the guard, the two world's largest economies effectively swap positions compared to 2016. So in 2040, the U.S. is going to drop from 43rd to 64th. At 79.8 years, while China rises from 68th to 39th at 81.9 years. So if you are, in the U.S., and about 71% of my subscribers are in the U.S., is that shocking to you? That currently the U.S. is 43rd with life expectancy, and that's going to be 64th? And that China is going to jump up to 39th. And isn't that shocking to you? How do we lead the world, and yet we're 64th? We're going to be 64th in life expectancy. That's definitely something to think about. And so there's a whole bunch of other numbers in here as well on that. Just found that very interesting. And fertility rates are still falling, and the gap is widening between rural and urban counties. And fertility rates are going down, down, down. Really, if it wasn't for immigration, the population of the U.S. would be going down, just as it is for most European countries, just as it is for Japan as well. And that's a trend that will make Bill Gates happy, for sure. And it's probably not going fast enough for him. And so this gives you the numbers, and you can see they're going down, down, down. Pretty quick slope there. So in 2017, women had their first children on average at 27.7 years of age in large metro counties, and 25.8 in small and medium metro counties, and at 24.5 in rural counties. And less kids just overall. That's definitely the trend. And nearly half of the world lives on less than $5.50 a day. That's pretty sad. I mean, remember we were just talking about Khashoggi's, was it his uncle? $275,000 a day is what he lives on. $5.50 a day. So we have a lot to work on in this world, a lot to work on in society in general. And, they're defining extreme poverty as earning less than $1.90 a day. And despite progress in reducing extreme poverty, nearly half the world's population lives on less than $5.50 a day, with a rising share of the poor in wealthier economies. So there is your divergence going on, and it truly is splitting. The world is splitting into super rich and the rest. And the rest are basically going to be categorized as poor. There is, the middle class, we've talked about it forever, is a disappearing thing. And so, as it says here, the fruits of economic growth are shared unevenly across regions and countries, and it's getting worse. It's getting worse. It's not getting better. So, a lot to work on. We have a lot to work on right now. Definitely. So, my friends, as always, please thumbs up to support the channel and share with as many people as possible. Subscribe, click the bell so you get all notifications. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Let's hear your comments on everything that's going on, what you're expecting, and what you're surprised by. And as always, my friends, may you be blessed with abundant peace, love, happiness, well-being, and all good things, and always kept safe. Namaste, and God bless.